If this microphone still moves the bar on the mixer, we still have sound. And it still does. What is up, everybody? This is Jay, aka MultimediaJay. Somehow or another, this looks fuzzy. It looks fuzzier than it should be. Is this thing on manual focus or whatnot? Or am I just too used to what it looks like when I do this? And get this. Yeah, that looks sharper. Maybe it only looks sharper because of the preview. Or maybe I should get those ring lights that have been sitting over there since making the video about them weeks ago at this point and find permanent homes for them. The thing is, I want to have them on the voice network, or the voice commands and things like that, in order to proceed with all of this. So I'm coming off of movie marathons, playing catch up on movie backlogs and stuff. The big one, when I get done with the other movie backlogs, is going to be 007 movies. I decided that if there's any one killer movie franchise that I want to watch and see the progression of the presentation of movies throughout decades and whatnot, 007 James Bond movies is probably the best route to go, because Dr. No in the early 1960s, I was joking with my dad about this, and he's like, yeah, 007, I used to love 007, that guy was smooth, you know. But the thing is, the original 007 movie that came out in the early 60s with Sean Connery playing the role, it came out so long ago, my grandparents might have thought that my dad was too young to go see it. It was, too much for grown-ups and stuff like that. So my plan is to move forward chronologically through all the Bond movies until I get to the Daniel Craig era, which I've already seen. So, and basically have James Bond be the main way I'm keeping an eye on the progression of movie technology as things have developed, especially with the Blu-ray releases being nice and cheap and stuff along those lines. One of the other things I'm taking a look at, too, since getting Kingdom of Heaven, the 2-disc DVD set, circa 2005, I repurchased this. I originally had Kingdom of Heaven on DVD. It was an impulse purchase at Walmart back when the movie was more contemporary. When I upgraded to Blu-ray, I picked up this director's cut. And nowadays, which is basically the director's cut of the movie, but none of the extras from the DVD. And I was like, well, I don't care about the extras. I'm going to get rid of the DVD. So I sold off the DVD. And then I kept this. But then I was like, you know what? This movie is one that I've seen enough times that I actually want to, compare director's cut to theatrical version with this. So I went and looked for a theatrical version of Kingdom of Heaven. It only existed on the DVD, so here we are. Round and round and round we go, and we've gone halfway around the world to come back to where we started. So I think that Kingdom of Heaven is the one video that I can really talk a lot about. The one movie, I should say, that I can really talk a lot about. It's a Ridley Scott movie about Balian of Iberlin during the Crusades, similar to Gladiator from that time period. A historical epic, so to speak. Both versions of the movie are some kind of big, long adventure that you go on as Balian goes from France to Jerusalem and back. But the thing is, this movie didn't do so well in terms of the theatrical release, and I've been comparing the two since getting the DVD back. There's just no comparison at all. Obviously, the story that Ridley Scott wanted to tell is the director's cut. There is actually an Ultimate Edition out nowadays that has director's cut for the film and then DVD extras for the extras. So it brings together the best of both worlds. But because I'm a nerd that wants to compare both versions of this movie, I've decided to get the DVD and have that be a thing again. Plus, this is DVD I've been watching for years, so it's kind of a little bit of nostalgia in that respect to see the production value of the DVD versus the Blu-ray and things along those lines. But by and large, the movie that people should watch is the Blu-ray director's cut. That is more in line with, obviously, what the artist originally intended. And this is something I'm thinking about with things like Lord of the Rings. There's a cheap $15, aka $5 bargain bin movie trilogy of the Lord of the Rings of the theatrical releases at Walmart. But after doing a little digging around on Amazon, there are versions of both the Lord of the Rings trilogy and the Hobbit trilogy, both theatrical and extended, that bring the cost up to like $6 a movie instead of $5 a movie, or $7 or something. The extended editions especially are closer to the $100 mark, but it's still 6 movies, and the theatrical versions is along those lines as well. Having read the Peter Jackson discussions of those movies, it seems like he likes the theatrical releases, but I'm not a theater goer. And I know that theatrical versions with the time limits and the show flow things and things like that, theatrical versions of movies are very much catered to a different demographic. The enthusiasts are usually who the director's cuts and the extended editions are for. So I will probably wind up getting the extended editions of the Tolkien-based movies whenever I go to get those on Blu-ray. But first, we got a lot of Bond to go through. We have a backlog to finish up as well, which also has included the Ashen's box set. This was a limited release of physical media for the Ashen's movies. So Ashen's and the Quest for the Game Child, which was from several years ago. Ashen's and the Polybius Heist, which came out last year and looks really good for a low-budget film. And then Ashen's and the Fly on the Wall, which is kind of a making of for Polybius Heist. Big issue I have with the Blu-rays is they're these jumbo-sized cases. So, this box set is probably bigger than it should have been, but I decided I was originally going to revive the Ashen's pastiches on my channel to put this little box together, and I'm actually number 3772. It's also signed. It's also a signed box set as well. And of course, the 0 to 3 Sad Onion is featured on here as well. There are some references to Ashen's videos in these movies, but it's not as close to something that I think would be a thing. You know, maybe if he makes another movie, he should have more of a tie-in with the sofa reviews, even while telling a different story. Similar to, I think Angry Video Game Nerd did that as well. I think James did that with the AVGN and stuff along those lines. So yeah, but anyways, yeah, I had this. It came and it came in the mail, and you've seen this as a flattened cardboard box on the keyboard for the longest time. I was originally planning on doing an Ashen's pastiche going over these, but I decided, you know what? No, I just want to see the movies, and I don't want to bring back the Ashen's pastiches because there are spiritual successors to them with some of the things like the pizza video I made and stuff like that. Food videos I make and whatnot will be inspired by Ashen's without being a total ripoff like what I did with the sofa thing. I got so addicted to being a pastiche guy, so to speak. And some of the pastiches are doing pretty well nowadays in today's world of pastiches doing well on YouTube. But if I go all in on pastiches, I'm basically playing the algorithm at that point because of stylistic similarities. So I think at this point, if I want to opine on like weird food or something, just make a video about it the regular way. Plus, I'm looking to get rid of the plaid sofa anyways. Been looking to get rid of it for years, but now that the pandemic is no longer slowing things down, we'll probably look at that as well. I also I've watched 2 out of the 3 from the Predator triple feature, more $5 movies here, including the now appropriately priced Ultimate Hunter Edition. The now appropriately priced Ultimate Hunter Edition. The DNR masterpiece. Where basically if upscaled DVDs were in 1080p, the Ultimate Hunter Edition is what they would look like. One of the problems with the mainstream audience's obsession with Blu-ray always looking crisp and clear compared to DVD is that sometimes film is not going to look crisp and clear because it's film. The detail, or the pixels as it were in film, is the grainy material that is photosensitive. So if you try and get rid of the grainy look of certain film stock and whatnot that was used to shoot certain movies, then you're basically going to end up with a weird looking visual. So it's going to look like, Arnold Schwarzenegger looks like an action figure. And Carl Weathers looks even worse. Carl Weathers looks like an action figure that's been left out in the rain because of all the DNR. So it's outrageous just what these Blu-ray transfer people or whatever, the people that make Blu-ray releases have done to certain films, because the mainstream has had certain expectations of this format when it was new. Hopefully that's less of a thing nowadays, especially with 4K and whatnot, and that, film looking like film isn't such a taboo thing. So it's one of those things where, I haven't seen the third movie in this yet. It's from 2010, so no rush. Saw the sequel, which was kind of comical, kind of a nice reference to the first one. But the Ultimate Hunter Edition, great example of just what happens when technicians cater to the wrong audience. Because, let's be blunt, film is going to look like film. Just like still pictures are going to look like they were shot on photographic film, motion pictures, aka movies, are going to look like they were shot on film. Because they probably were. And trying to eliminate film grain too much like that basically is the equivalent of trying to hide pixel borders on digital images. The results will be weird looking at best if you go overboard in any amount. All right, let's talk about the great YouTube collapse, or the great YouTube crash of 2021 that's coming. I was loading up some numbers prior to going live. I already had this discussion earlier, but it was kind of a more crude version of it. It was more of a crude version of it as compared to stuff that's gone on as compared to more recent stuff. But it was a crude version of it. Didn't really stack up. I thought I could make videos about it, but I think a stream will actually do this topic justice. So that way we could just do a one and done of this sort of thing. Because we know that YouTube has the right to monetize, but something hit me out of nowhere with regards to this problem with the right to monetize that creators are going to see in 2021, and that is this. By asserting a right to monetize, YouTube has given themselves an incentive to kick you out of the partner program if you're a small creator. Because there will be no more revenue split. There will be no more revenue split. They can monetize the heck out of your videos, and there's not a thing you can do about it. They can pepper your videos with ads under the right to monetize, and you don't see a penny of that money. This is one of those unintended consequences. When you see a new system, process, procedure, whatever, immediately start thinking of the ways it can go wrong and challenge them. I've done that, and YouTube has had zero response. May 20th, 2021. Remember that date. That's when I brought this up to Team YouTube on Twitter, and they have not responded at all. Of course, one wonders nowadays if the Team YouTube Twitter account is just a bot. Or it's just a bot that's passing stuff along to people who are then instructed to talk like robots because it's corporate communications. So, May 20th, 2021, remember that date. Because that date was when I started getting no answers from YouTube about the crashing ad revenue that's going to tank channels. What have I been watching the last couple of years? ScroogeTube, the constant relation between money and whether or not your videos get any views. Now, it's tempting to think that your hard work on YouTube actually pays off. It's very tempting. That seems like something totally logical, something that would totally be a thing on YouTube. Unfortunately, YouTube is a business, and part of that business is that, whoever makes the money, they like them, just like over on Twitch. People say that, over on Twitch prefers the people that bring in the money and they'll let them get away with stuff, blah, 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 blah. Indeed. It's a conflict of interest that I would expect from any private business at this point that isn't regulated, like online media now needs to be. The Wild West days are over, It's time for there to be rules of the road and regulations, because if you lose access to YouTube because of something incredibly stupid that you do when you're like 19 years old or something that gets you banned from the platform, that affects the entire rest of your life. What if you grow up and you mature afterwards? What if you're a better person when you're 28 or 29 than you were when you were 19? Should you be forever banned from YouTube because of some youthful indiscretion that you did when you were barely out of high school? It's these very important questions that creators need to think about, and that the industry in general needs to come up with answers for. Otherwise, the only solution is government regulation. Bring in some rules of the road and realize that, to some extent, these services are a public service, essentially. There is some element of a baseline thing that you get in life from being able to access these platforms, and to deplatform somebody is to actually attack their quality of life. So it's something very serious that needs an answer. That answer just doesn't exist yet because it's still pretty much the Wild West. Let's link up to Chrome for this. This is a picture that I put up on Twitter earlier, illustrating the crash of 2021. There is always a crash after December, like there was in 2020. Let's actually put a mouse pointer on the screen for this. There's always a crash. There's my pointer again. There's always a crash after Christmas because the value of advertising revenue is a lot lower when everybody has spent all their money during the holiday season. So we're starting 2019. We have a run up to Christmas, a crash. But it starts coming back up as people get their money back. And then during the lockdowns and the run up to Christmas in 2020 and the stimulus and everything, we see some really nice numbers. 2021, January, crash happens again because Christmas is over. But look at what keeps happening. Crash, 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 crash. And the views, which fluctuated here and there and stuff along those lines, start to go into a tailspin. Here's the issue. The money goes into a tailspin first before the views consistently go, or before the watch hours go into a tailspin. So this is just a curiosity of mine. You know, we know that views can be negatively affected by streams because your views are going to be lower if you have to watch a certain percentage of a live stream. So it takes more watch time to trigger a tick on the view counter if that's the way it works. I'll need the drinks tonight. What we have here, though, is an example of things crash in December and then they just keep on crashing. And now we start seeing the watch time start to crash as well. Now, what does that ultimately lead to? It leads to the ugly truth of the matter is that the right to monetize is going live. It's a thing in certain markets, and there's a TOS update to expand it to more markets later this year. But here's the problem. By doing this, YouTube has created an incentive to kick people out of the partner program. Who? Small creators. The truth of the matter is that YouTube holds the cards. You as a creator, you don't matter. You really don't. They can say that you matter. Bottom line is, everybody wants to be a YouTuber. There's an entire generation that has been raised to want to be YouTubers. Gen Z, we're looking at you. There are people that want to be YouTubers instead of wanting to be like scientists or something. So everybody wants to be something. There's a pick of the litter in terms of talent. If you fall out of line in any way, shape, or form, the platform can just see ya. But it won't be explicit. It'll be something more systemic and insidious and behind the scenes. And that's something that I'm expecting in 2021. So, 1,000 subscribers. You can stay consistent. People will click the sub button, maybe. And you may eventually get 1,000 subs. The big thing that you have to maintain is 4,000 watch hours. The big thing you have to maintain is 4,000 watch hours in a 365-day period. My channel for the last 365 days is at 5,680. In 2020, that number is 6,969. And in 2019, we'll just change the year. Remember, 5,000 something for the last 365 days. In 2020, 6,900. In 2019, 6,600. So here's the thing. I think all the small videos and all the binge watchability on my channel adds up to 4,000 public watch hours as people come in, do their thing, decide how much of what it is that I've done they want to watch, and things like that. However, what does it mean for the future? Especially when you have a couple of really popular videos, especially if you look at 2020 here. Let's go back to the last 365 days. You have some very popular videos that have run away with a lot of the watch time. And I'm talking the ones that bring in the most money. So you have a situation where the money drops and then the views drop because you're not making the platform as much money. That tanks your most popular videos, which are contributing a lot of your watch time. Then what? You know, run numbers on the spreadsheets or something to see if you can come up with something to give you an idea as to whether or not you can stay above 4,000, because you get warnings for being removed from the partner program if you fall below the thresholds for it. So if there's a situation going on where the money is crashing and that's taking down the algorithms introducing your content, as has been the case with the washer video, the dryer video, now the George Foreman grill video, and to a lesser extent Forza with no graphics card, Windows 8 versus the Dallosaurus, etc., etc. As this continues to be an issue, your channel sinks through no fault of your own. And that's the thing. I mean, I don't think it's right that the videos that I like making, that people like me making, the tech videos and whatnot, have never done as well as the washer video, the dryer video, and other stuff. That the old dumb luck element of going viral is still very much something that makes or breaks you on YouTube. Despite what all the gurus say, despite what all the stream coaches or whatever come out and tell you with regards to your channel's ability to do well. Hard work does not pay off if the systems don't give you an audience. That's the thing. Matter of fact, I've talked about this before. It bears repeating. It's actually the other way around. When you, as a content creator, see that there are eyeballs on your videos, if you're a good kind of person who wants to cater to an audience, that should inspire you to try harder. So the numbers, you see numbers first, that encourages you to try harder and make better stuff, which should bring in more numbers, and then so on and so forth as you build your channel up. It's not a situation where you're going to go wild and crazy with production value, show flow, the whole 9 yards, and then cross your fingers that someone will watch it. You have to actually think, you actually have to be inspired to do so. You know? You actually have to be inspired to do so. And one of the ways you do that is by believing you can do it and the platform actually looking like it's working. Think about those people who deliberately go to Twitch over YouTube despite YouTube's problems. What are some of the reasons why they say they're doing that? It makes no sense. Twitch has a lot of problems versus YouTube. Twitch has a lot of problems that are current on the platform that YouTube solved years ago. Why are people doing that? Because they see some kind of way in which they can amount to something on Twitch that doesn't exist on YouTube. Like, for example, not being made or broken by automated systems that may not be working on certain days or whatever. One example with game streamers that I can talk about here is when game streamers talk about, well, you know, if I want to meet new people, I'll just go to an underrepresented game and see who's looking for that stuff. And I'll play a game that I like that's not as popular, so it's not as saturated of a category or something along those lines. I'm actually going to go do that stuff. So there's an element of, I feel like I'm in control, so I can meet new people by playing underrepresented games, even if the audiences for those games are small. So I can actually go on, you know, meet new people mode and be like, say hi to the lurkers and things along those lines, even though it's a taboo thing to do. But the bottom line is I have options. Whereas on YouTube, there's so many algorithms, it oftentimes doesn't feel like anything you do matters. I'm even second guessing the subscription system. So I actually have an LG Phoenix 4 that I dropped less than a month after getting it and shattered the screen. But the screen still works, one of the cool things about today's touchscreens. But it was factory reset. So I have two LG Phoenix 4s. The one I was using as my phone before I moved to a Moto G7. The one that I was using, that air conditioner is working again, isn't it? Yep. Summer weather here in New England. But the phone that I was using, the USB port broke on it, so it won't take a charge anymore. But I have the phone before it that has a shattered screen, so I can just transplant the screen and get a working phone that way. But until I get around to doing that project, which is a tech video waiting to happen, I am actually going to probably run the old phone with a shattered screen, which has been factory reset, make a sock puppet account on Gmail, like it's my first email address ever, and then subscribe to my channel and see if I ever get notifications. So that way we can get past the whole thing of personal account versus brand account on the same Google account, getting past that limitation and seeing what my channel looks like in terms of notifications and the front page if I'm a brand new user to YouTube who has subbed to somebody because we've made a YouTube account to go watch their videos. I want to see what that looks like. Because in everything that I've done, go lives, streams, videos, nothing has popped up on the old phone I have sitting over there that's logged into a personal account instead of the brand account. So I'm not seeing notifications for that. The problem with this is I think that the so-called subscription button is really just an algorithm thing as usual, where you could sub to a channel because you heard about it somewhere else. But unless you've actually put in some watch time on some of the videos, you're not going to see anything because the system has nothing to go off of that you're even interested in the videos in the first place. So I'm actually might test that out a bit, but I'm testing it out by looking at stuff on the other phone. And I'll do it with the sock puppet account as well. Because, the heck? Birds? I think I have birds coming down the chimney and building a nest the minute I turn the heat off. Happens every year. Or it could be bats, who knows? Something chirping and stuff. Stupid. It's because of the setup with the heating in my house. The furnace goes up and out like an old Franklin stove pipe, but there's still some space underneath, so theoretically if the heat's not running, there can be a nest completely safe underneath where all the stuff goes up from the chimney. So, some very sooty birds, though, because I know there can be a little bit of soot in there. But, I don't know. Happens every spring. It's a stupid little weird side effect of this house. Either way, no, we'll deal with that some other time. But that's the thing with this whole thing with YouTube, is that I don't even think the sub button does what it's supposed to do unless you click all notifications. And then what do you do about that? So you can sub to somebody, but it's still very algorithmic. You have to show an interest in their content somehow, which means that when you are doing what these gurus tell you to do and you're plugging your channel on Discord or Twitch or Twitter or whatever, now if you're doing this kind of stuff, it's not if, but when, you end up with people subbing that don't hear about anything that you're doing because there's no watch time to back up. They came from somewhere else, clicked the button, but they have 0 watch hours for the system to recommend any of your stuff. I'm very curious about that. And I want to actually do some more tests with that to see how it works. You talk about my views dying and things like that. Well, if the systems don't promote my stuff, my channel goes nowhere. It's that simple. And I'm not one of those narcissists who goes around acting like I'm responsible for everything in terms of whether my channel goes everywhere or not, because I understand the technology. So, and I've seen a lot of backpedaling in the last couple of months from some of these people that are presenting themselves as experts in SEO or experts in YouTube. But the truth of the matter is that YouTube is a black box. Whatever Google is working on, that's YouTube, and that's how it works. So YouTube is very militant about not telling how anything works, because they know as well as anybody else who follows this stuff among us enthusiasts on this platform, that the minute anybody gets any idea how YouTube works, everybody is going to start doing that, and they're going to have to change it anyways. So even the SOPs and everything that exists nowadays are people's best guess as to what's going to work. But I'll tell you, when it comes to expressing myself as a content creator, I don't want to have a bunch of cookie cutter canned videos like so many channels are full of with the $700 DSLRs, the in-video advertising, the calls to action, all this other stuff. The stuff that fluffifies the video and makes it more fluff, less stuff, the very thing that I've been concerned about. So I don't want that kind of a situation going on. I want to be able to look back on, like, say, something I did with the Delosaurus 5 years ago and say, I'm proud of that video. I like it. Even still, nowadays. Because there are few things that you will fight against as a content creator more than the ugly reality that you're going to hate your own stuff as you get better at making things. So your first videos, you're going to think they're crap, probably no more than 6 months to a year after you make them. Because if you keep at it and you get better at what it is that you do, some of that, by the way, involves watching others and being inspired by them, not just being self-centered and only thinking you're good, when in reality you're only iterating on your own stuff and not getting ideas from others or inspiration from others, that kind of thing. But fundamentally, you are going to make progress, and you're going to start hating your old stuff. You're going to cringe at it. You're going to dislike it. You're going to think it doesn't represent me. And then, of course, you're going to have problems like what I've had, where a 5-year-old video of mine goes viral for whatever reason. And now people are thinking that's the way I make videos nowadays. And so there are people throwing complaints my way about show flow and taking too long to get to the point in some of my 5-year-old videos that are something I've been concerned about for 5 years since posting the video. But how are they going to know when the algorithms are passing around the old stuff for whatever reason? It's stupid. But it's YouTube. So it's just the thing, And now we get to today. One of the nasty side effects of the right to monetize is going to be that there's now a reason to kick people. There's now an incentive to kick people out of the partner program because YouTube can help themselves to all the ad revenue and pepper videos with ads. The minute those people become pesky little partners, they can turn off mid-rolls. They can do stuff that, their audience might actually like. But if the tie-in to ad revenue is such a strong element of whether the algorithms are friendly and pass your stuff along, and that's the exact pattern I've seen for years now at this point, no matter what YouTube says, I've been watching the numbers for years. They'd tell a different story if things changed. But if you have a situation where there's too much of an emphasis on ad revenue, now you have a situation where YouTube has a reason to kick you out of the partner program. So if you're a smaller creator, So the way this is going to work, it's a little progression of things. So here's how it starts. The concerns people had about right to monetize were that either it would increase the CPMs because YouTube can show the ads to a larger group of potential customers now. Now they've written themselves a right to monetize on non-partnered videos. YouTube has given themselves... The other thing that people were worried about was that the ad revenue would drop because now you've got the ads being shown among more videos. And the centerpiece, the connecting pin of this, essentially, this entire machine, is a little something called market elasticity. If YouTube is growing the size of the potential audience, and that can be used as a reason to increase the CPMs to help partners out or keep them at the same amount of revenue instead of tanking their revenue because it gets diluted too much. How much can YouTube do that before advertisers will not pay the extra money? That's market elasticity. How much leeway do you have with your pricing before you start losing your customers? How flexible and elastic is that market? That's the thing. Some industries is better than others. So you have a very real possibility that YouTube can do both and, but not in a way that helps creators any. So they could raise the CPMs because of the larger target market, but they couldn't raise it high enough to make up for all these impressions that are now being shown on non-partnered videos. And so that tanks your ad revenue. Now, if there's a system in place that where the treatment in the algorithm is the algorithms is based on how much money your stuff makes for YouTube, and now it's making a lot less money. What that equates to is what we showed on the browser. The money tanks first, and then the views come down afterwards. Through no fault of your own, no action of your own. I mean, many of these videos that have been bringing in all kinds of money, they're now bringing in less money, despite it being past the January crash period. In some cases, years of progress is being undone on my channel because of this stuff. Many of these videos have been getting passed around to never-ending audiences on YouTube for years. So that's the thing. If this wasn't because of the money, we'd still be seeing these videos getting passed around endlessly. But they don't make as much money as they used to now, so this is, oh, well, drop it down. Send the more profitable stuff out first. And so you see a situation where your money drops first, then your views drop, and your watch time drops with that, to the point where you fall under the threshold to maintain partner status and you get kicked out of the partner program after some warnings or whatever. Now YouTube has access to all of your ad revenue and controls the ads on all of your videos. Congratulations. So now YouTube can slap you with a bazillion mid-rolls. YouTube can slap your videos with a bazillion mid-rolls and take all the ad revenue. There you go. Now, I wonder if that might create a situation where some people are in and out of the partner program depending on what that does to your views. Because, say, you get kicked out of the partner program. Now YouTube peppers the hell out of your videos. YouTube, you get kicked out of the partner program because your watch hours were too low. Then your videos get peppered with ads. Now YouTube's making more money off of your videos. Just you're not seeing a cut of it and things go back up. Are there going to be situations where people are in and out, in and out, in and out, in and out? And is there going to be a situation going on where, weirdly enough, you are more likely to have your channel grow due to algorithms because... and the algorithm's actually passing your stuff around when you've been kicked out of the partner program? I mean, these are the kinds of unintended consequences that YouTube needs to come up with an answer to and actually talk about that with creators. They could spin this however they want. They could spin this however they want, too. You know how I think that most corporate communications people would spin it? They'd make a video on YouTube and like the Creator Insider or the, YouTube Creators channel. Well, we're going to address some of the misinformation that's going around out there because anything that doesn't come from official sources is automatically misinformation, blah, 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 blah. They could spin it that way and come up with some kind of answer to this concern that anybody who's thought this through is going to have. But that's the thing. And all of this flies in the face of something I've been talking about for quite some time now, YouTube needs to move beyond this ad revenue obsession, because with the other forms of monetization, which are still part of the same partner program, with the other forms, it looked like a couple of months ago, it looked like YouTube was trying to move beyond all of this. Maybe it's a situation where one part of the company is here, the other part of the company is here, so they're kind of out of sync with each other. Maybe you have something like that going on. But YouTube doesn't need to be so wrangled by ad revenue anymore. There's supers and there's channel memberships. So you have creators out there who can really work the crowds, really, make them want to donate and stuff like that. But it's not really a donation unless you're a 501c3. You get people, make them want to dono and stuff like that. Get people out there, make them want to, what the heck is this ASCII art? Careful with the symbols. So, dono symbols. Oh, look, a spam bot. Goodbye. Oh, look, a spam bot. All right, goodbye. Stop that right off the bat. Or a sticky keyboard. We'll revisit that tomorrow. So, let's see here. Now, we have a situation here where this happens and whatnot, but it didn't look like it was going in this direction. It wasn't that long ago. It didn't look like it was going in this direction, because YouTube has non-advertising things that will scale. You have a creator with an audience that really loves what it is they're doing, and they're constantly throwing supers, constantly throwing channel memberships. Matter of fact, the monetization setup on Twitch that attracts people, the monetization setup that attracts people on Twitch is actually not very focused on advertising. You have subs with a split going to Twitch. You have cheers with a split going to Twitch. But the subs, especially the tier 1s, and the stuff that's not gifted subs, is kind of the bread and butter determining the overall health of the channel as a business. And if we know how this monetization, as it's called nowadays, works, you have a situation where what we call monetization nowadays, I mentioned this before, was originally called ad revenue sharing in the early days of YouTube. And Rever, actually, that's kind of sort of where the name came from, revenue sharing. That was the feature that was being sold on there when YouTube wasn't doing it. So, ad revenue sharing benefits the platform, not just the creator. It's not a situation where it's not a situation where some greedy Scrooge creator video maker is running away with all kinds of money. The platform's benefiting from it too. So, why would YouTube want to punt people out of the program, out of the partner program, because of something advertising related, if they might be able to grow a channel to the point where there's a lot of stuff that's not advertising related? We talked about this a while back. Why would YouTube want to? And that's part of how YouTube needs to catch up with things. YouTube needs to catch up with things. Yeah, spammer's gone. YouTube needs to catch up with things. We'll turn that into a 24-hour timeout later on in case there was like someone with a sticky keyboard. Yeah, sticky buttons on the keyboard or something. It was a bunch of random punctuation crap that didn't, that just message. So you have this stuff going on here. And the thing is, well, let me just pause alerts while we're at it, because some people like to mess with that kind of stuff. In case there's some kind of, some spam bot stuff going on. So that's the thing. One of the things that I advocate for, and I very much believe YouTube needs to go towards, is YouTube should be creating a monetization system that either includes or doesn't include advertising, the fickle part of all of this. This is where we're talking about getting demonetized, which is really just limited ads. Only advertisers that opt in can actually put ads on your video if that's the case. Hey, while we're at it, let's take a look and see if this stream's been demonetized. They've been doing better with that, at least. So that's something that we can credit YouTube with in this case. See, has the stream been demonetized? Oh, yeah. Typical. Yeah, well, we'll just let it sit for a bit and then force a reevaluation after extended processing is complete by chopping out some of the beginning. It's the new plan for streams. They will go from green to yellow, and then we'll fix them afterward. You can probably fix them afterwards when they finish processing, become videos. But that's the thing with that, though. You have this whole thing with monetization and limited ads and whatnot. You have that sort of thing going on, but that all exists because of the fickleness of advertisers. There are brands that do not like, there are brands out there that do not like when their ads are shown alongside stuff that they don't want their ads to be shown alongside. So that's the issue there. With advertising, you have the platform, the creator, and the advertisers as the main players in what's what with what. You eliminate the advertisers for all the other stuff. So what advertisers think doesn't matter. And there isn't that fickleness in there. So if you have somebody, maybe the advertisers don't like them, but they have an audience that really likes what they have to say and they support the heck out of them. Why would you want to limit that with an outdated partner program like what YouTube currently has? That's a very tough question that YouTube needs a good answer to. The way it is right now, if they maintain a situation where the entire partner program, including supers, including channel memberships, including all of this other stuff, if YouTube maintains an environment where all of this is dependent upon one watch hour thing in the span of a year, what if somebody has a very supportive audience but less than 4,000 public watch hours in a 365-day period? Now what? Because creators don't need to use official platform support systems. They can do things like Patreon. They can do donos through things like Stream Elements. My Stream Elements has a tipping page that was originally tied to my Twitch streams, but now it's tied to any streaming I do anywhere, including on YouTube. Theoretically, someone could tip me for a video with a couple extra clicks, but people, for the most part, don't actually have the option. They do have the option, but many times they don't follow through on it because it's too many extra clicks. Too much work. Make things easy. People do that if it's easy and convenient. So you do all of that. And why should the partner requirements be what they are? One size fits all, combining advertising with non-advertising, and there being a system like what we have right here where you sit and watch your videos for years be affected directly by whether or not they're bringing in a lot of advertising revenue. Because, my tech videos have always done miserably on the money side of things, even if people like them. Even if people are trying to spread them around. I don't want a situation where somebody has to choose between their audience and the system that lets them have an audience. Those two should not conflict with each other. And there are videos from Creator Insider with folks, mostly the ones that what's-her-face does, Rachel, the analytics person who works on discoverability nowadays. There are videos from Creator Insider that say that the discovery and the money systems are separate. Well, if that's the case, I should be seeing very different things in the numbers, because I know that people who really like computers are going to binge watch all the tech tinkering videos, but they never do as well. It's always the stuff that's making the most money, with very few exceptions, that's doing the best with the algorithms. Now, you could say that one of the things that's going on with my channel right now is Forza with no graphics card, the goofy video I made. That's probably really friendly when it comes to search engine results. But search engine people are looking for, to be entertained or get a question answered. They may not necessarily want to subscribe to a channel. So you may have a situation where a video like what that one is does well, specifically because it's very good with search engines. So that's a different thing altogether, but that would basically mean people are searching for it and they're watching the video that way. What I'm looking for is a situation where the platform actually works to try and hook people up with new folks to watch their videos. Because appearance is reality. You know how many times I've seen creators talk about forget creators. You know how many times I've seen YouTubers specifically talk about how they're sick of fighting algorithms all the time. They're sick and tired of automated systems having way too much of the reign of the kingdom, so to speak. They're sick and tired of it. What that is that's something that says, look, I don't want to be fighting your systems just to have an audience. I don't want a setup where someone can subscribe to me and then never see anything because the algorithms don't think they're interested in my videos. So they have to manually keep checking just to see anything from me. That's the thing. Too many computers getting between people. And that's one of the reasons people go to YouTube's competitors. It's one of the reasons why people go to Twitch, the reasons why they go to TikTok, reasons why they go to Instagram. They feel some kind of control over their channels that they don't feel as much on YouTube because of all the automated systems. It doesn't matter if I'm right on this either. Doesn't matter if anybody's right on it. If that's the perception, people act on it. People act on stuff that's not factual all the time based on what they think is going on. It's called being wrong about something. That doesn't stop people from being wrong about it, even if they're corrected. Feelings are a very strong thing. People's perceptions are an incredibly strong thing. People will be wrong about something if it makes them feel good. It's one of the ugly realities about human beings. So that will affect the content that gets put on YouTube, besides, of course, the commercial stuff. But if the commercial stuff, the thing is, though, you have some larger creators and commercial entities that have made the decision in recent years to remove their stuff from YouTube and make their own video site. So you can't just run YouTube as commercial stuff only and not care about the little guy. The little guy is what makes YouTube special. It's what made YouTube special. When competitors were signing more deals with big names in the entertainment industry. Or big celebrities or whatever. From television, of course, not what the internet was creating. That's a thing. So it's YouTube's roots, whether or not they want to acknowledge what has grown the platform, that's all their choice. But in the meantime, until things change, until we hear that, for example, YouTube acknowledges that not all of the monetization that they can offer to people, which, by the way, inspires people to make stuff for YouTube as opposed to going off somewhere else. You know, not all the monetization is tied to ad revenue. So why does there need to be anything left of the old system? Why can't that just be redone? Because I'll tell you what, if you're a good enough live streamer and can bring in concurrence, when you're a Twitch affiliate, you basically have YouTube minus the advertising. This is something I've seen in little 10-viewer Twitch affiliates, 20-viewer Twitch affiliates. Nothing exciting, nowhere near the ability to make full-time income, hampered even more by Twitch taking 50% of sub revenue. Blah! That's the worst in the industry, by the way. So you have these small, itty-bitty Twitch affiliates who have a couple of fans that support them and sub to them. They grow up. Yeah, save that for another discussion. They grow a small audience somehow. They get some subs, they get some cheers, they get some bits, things along those lines. They get those things. What they don't have is advertising. Because if you have 10 concurrents equating to like 30 views, that's not a lot of impressions. And you have flat CPMs on Twitch, as opposed to YouTube with the catalog of keywords and other stuff and dynamic CPMs by video. This is one of those things where I say, oh, stuff on Twitch looks better to people that don't have YouTube experience because they've never experienced that kind of a setup before. It sounds cool that, oh yeah, you're our entry-level business partner now. We'll let you make a little bit of money off of this, every 1,000 impressions. But Twitch is very weak on anything that's not live. Very weak. So the setup you have as a small Twitch streamer is, if you can get the subs and the cheers, if you can get subs and cheers, you basically have monetization that doesn't involve advertising, because you'll get like a penny or something per stream because you have such a small audience, which will equate to far less than the 1,000 impressions that CPMs usually represent. So yeah, don't expect advertising to be anything significant on a small live channel that barely gets any concurrence, but can get some subs here and there and some cheers here and there. So what YouTube needs to create already exists on Twitch, unofficially and quite by accident. It's not so much that small affiliates get 0 for ads. It's that they don't have the impressions to get more than maybe a couple of pennies or something. Nothing exciting at all is going to come out of advertising for a lot of Twitch channels. The exciting stuff that people were drawn there for, some people even leaving YouTube when YouTube was ad revenue only, The exciting stuff was the subs. The subs and the cheers, which could add up far beyond ad revenue very, very quickly if you got an enthusiastic audience that liked supporting you. Nowadays on YouTube, you have supers and memberships. And the requirements for memberships have been dropped down to be one of the things you gain at the 1,000 sub mark. It used to be way higher for non-gaming channels, and gaming channels could get in on the action earlier. And YouTube has better splits for those kinds of things, but it's something that scales. But it's very easy for transaction revenue to eclipse ad revenue. So the question is, when is YouTube going to stop being so obsessed with this advertising thing, as was the case a couple of years ago? When are the systems going to change so that an enthusiastic audience that may not be so good for ad dollars can be good for a channel and the platform through other means, now that YouTube has these other systems? That is my very serious question. But until we get to that, we have what we have, which is the old guard. And unintended consequences galore, because if you have dilution of ad revenue caused by this right to monetize, where ads are going on all of these non-partner videos, when you have that going on and that drops your money, then eventually your views, well, you're not as profitable for the platform, so the algorithms start treating you like garbage. It erodes away one of the biggest strengths of YouTube, which is after the fact stuff. Stuff that's not time sensitive. Stuff where you can make something and it goes into circulation because it's not time sensitive. It's not like your stream of Call of Duty from February 2nd, 2019 or whatever, having zero relevance to anything long past the air date, so to speak. It's not like that. You can make something that makes the rounds for years, because that's what YouTube's good at. After the fact stuff, searchable stuff, stuff that involves algorithm technology, despite all the problems that it also brings at the same time. Twitch doesn't have that. You can barely even search for stuff on Twitch if it's too old. I've tested that before. Search for my own videos that I've had on there since the Twitch upload experiment years ago in the mid-2010s. I can't even search for my own videos anymore, even when I type in the exact title of the video, because the search system turned you off after X amount of time because it's an old video. So that's the world. That's the situation over there. But sadly enough, even on a platform where all that matters is what happens when you're live, except for next to nothing otherwise, that being a Twitch affiliate, actually with not very interesting ad revenue or no ad revenue, is actually representative of what YouTube needs to push for. And that is that if you have an audience that likes supporting you, don't let the ad friendliness determine whether or not they're monetizable or not. That's what I've been talking about. Split the partner program into two tiers, one with advertising and one without advertising. And have everything, because the guidance was already going in that direction on the help files to begin with. The guidance nowadays, if you look at, for example, ad-friendly guidelines for things like violence or controversial issues or whatever in your videos, it's going to say you should turn off ads for this. You know, limited ads will be on this. You can turn on ads for this. And YouTube's working on the differences between the green and the yellow $sign. So it's already going in that direction there. But when is the rest of the systems going to catch up? So what's next for me is mid-rolls get turned back on channel-wide on June 1st, and I see if this causes any kind of rebound. If there's really no... We'll give it a month. And if it doesn't really do anything, then we'll go look at the binge-watchable stuff like the tech videos and stuff and disable mid-rolls on those again, because I'm at a point where I think it doesn't really matter what I do anymore. Stream, videos, otherwise. And what do you think that does to my inspiration to make videos? Been spending a lot of time watching movies lately for the first time in years, and I don't see that stopping anytime soon. I do have some tech videos I could make to progress the stories forward on tinkering with technology around the house, but no rush. So, why should I? It's not going to be the most wild thing in the world when YouTube doesn't even give you any views until maybe 6 months after a video goes live. You sit at like 20 views forever, and then suddenly you get surprised by a wave of comments later on because, oh, look, the video that was stuck at 20 views for half a year now has like 200 views. Finally, why didn't that happen 6 months ago or whatever? Finally. Why didn't that happen earlier? Too many algorithms, too many computers, too many systems second-guessing what human beings want to do, whether it's creators making stuff or whether it's people in the audience watching stuff. Too many computers. And that is what drives people to TikTok. That is what drives people to Twitch. That is what drives people to Instagram. That is what drives people elsewhere, is this feeling that the Skynet of YouTube's algorithms is constantly watching over them and deciding whether they get anywhere at all on this platform. So that's the thing. The rest of the elements of the great YouTube crash of 2021 simply include the pandemic bubble bursting. People are going to go back to work, or they're going to be working from home. Maybe they're going to get some, stuff to do at home or something like that. At the minimum, you'll see people who used to be involved in chat and stuff like that now just lurk because they might have you on in the background while working on something else, something along those lines. But the big thing is the bubbles of the pandemic will pop. Things got a lot higher when things are more locked down. People were sitting home, not working, things like that. Going to go in the other direction now that the vaccine's making the rounds. That by itself would have told me that 2021 was going to be a terrible year for content creation and YouTubers and everything. YouTube didn't have to make the problem any worse by rolling out this right to monetize just in time for it to dilute the hell out of everyone's ad revenue. And we've seen this before. What happens when the ad revenue gets diluted too much? YouTube gates it a little more. Just like what happened when all those small creators got kicked out of the partner program a couple of years ago when minimum requirements were first rolled out. But this time, because YouTube will get 100% of the ad revenue from your channel if they can come up with any reason to get you out of the partner program, they've quietly created a reason to do so. They've created a rather dark-sounding incentive to do that. That didn't exist last time. So it's really a matter of how quickly YouTube gets with the times here, because if they followed through on this, you'll lose access to supers and memberships, which gets back to what I was asking about earlier. Why does ad friendliness or advertiser anything, or the limited amount of, only so much money due to market elasticity can be a thing with advertising? There are limits to advertising revenue. I think YouTube knows about these limits. They've been trying to move beyond them with these new systems. So why does any of what's happening right now need to be happening? I'll be keeping an eye on it over on Twitter. June 1st, we'll turn the mid-rolls back on. We'll do an experiment for the month of June, and then make another decision in July, see how it goes. But at some point, this correlation that I've been watching for years between making money for the platform through advertising and whether or not the algorithms are nice to your videos needs to go away. Because it doesn't need to be this way. There's other factors in play these days. And quite frankly, many of the most unpopular things that YouTube has done over the last 5 years has had something to do with advertising. If they find a way around this, they solve a long-running problem of the last several years on this platform. Will they? That's the question that I think I'll leave the discussion with. Things will get worse before they get better. The question is, how much worse? We shall see. Till next time, this is MultimediaJay signing off. Thanks for stopping by.